Hey guys, this is Brother Ray Jones with the First Church of God in Princeton, West Virginia. I want to welcome you to our midweek Bible study. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be a part of this time of online learning and growing together. We're going to be taking a little bit of a break from series tonight. We're in the Christmas holiday season, and this evening I want to take just a little bit of time to talk about what I like to refer to as, or must refer to as, the most wonderful, difficult time of the year. The scripture text we're going to be focusing in on this evening is Proverbs, the 14th chapter, and Romans, the 12th chapter. So if you want to go ahead and be looking for Proverbs and Romans, that's the text we're going to be focusing in on this evening. And while you're turning there, just let me invite you to think with me for a moment about what the holidays are all about. This can be an amazing time of the year. People celebrate their special music. We decorate. I mean, look back here at all this pretty decoration we've got. This is set up for Christmas 2023 here at Mahood Avenue, and we've got some folks that just do an amazing job with Christmas decorations. And man, there's special music, there are gatherings, there are parties, there's time with family and friends, there's the giving and receiving of cards. There's the giving and receiving of gifts. If you're like me, there's a lot of baking going on, and there's a lot of eating going on too. Thank God for New Year's and those resolutions to lose weight. Amen. Well, we won't talk about that right now. But the holidays tend to be a time to amplify our feelings. Think about that with me for a moment. If we're in a good place emotionally, physically, and financially, this time of year will probably bring you a whole lot of joy. And quite honestly, I hope that's where you are right now. But if you're struggling in any of these areas, this time of the year can be very, very difficult. It can be the most wonderful time of the year, but it can also be the most difficult time of the year for others. Now, here's the reality. You are really the only one who knows where you fall on this spectrum. Proverbs 14:10 says this: "The heart knows its own bitterness, and a stranger does not share its joy." What is Solomon trying to convey there? Well, it's quite simply this: no one knows exactly how you feel. I know well-meaning people have told you that. Something's been going on, and they've just looked at you and they've said in response, "Yeah, I know exactly how you feel." Well, they meant well when they said that, but it's really not true. No one knows exactly how you feel. According to Solomon, they don't. The heart knows its own bitterness, and a stranger does not share its joy. Now, what they're really probably trying to say is, you know what, I can identify with good feelings that you're having, or maybe they can say they're identifying with the difficult or the bad feelings that you're experiencing right now. But they're well-intended. Don't hold that against them. And I've been guilty of using those words about I know exactly how you feel. But I shy away from those now because you just don't really know exactly how somebody else feels. But what does that mean with the Christmas holidays? Well, let me kind of explain. I can remember some times in my life where Christmas has been a very Merry Christmas, all right? One year in particular, it was probably in and around 1976. Yeah, it was quite a long time ago, I know, but let's not remind me of my age, okay? But in and around that time, my brother and I were, of course, at home, and my parents gotten everything prepared for a wonderful Christmas morning. And when Randy and I got up on Christmas Day and went downstairs in our house and looked, man, I think Santa unloaded his entire sleigh in that living room. Man, we had toys everywhere. It looked like Toys R Us unloaded the whole truck in that place. I mean, simply put, we racked up, okay? I mean, my brother and I still talk about that Christmas to this very day. There were just so many toys in there, and And it was just amazing. We didn't know what had happened. We just thought, hey, we're kids, and we were greatly blessed. And boy, we went from toy to toy, package to package, and just played with everything. And looking back on it, we were quite honestly overwhelmed in a good way. Now, we learned later what had actually happened. See, our mom and dad, mom worked regular 9 to 5 shift. Dad worked a second shift. And during the week, they just kind of passed like ships in the night, so to speak. Well, we'd get some time with Dad, and we'd get some time with Mom. And on the weekends, we got time with both of them. We were grateful for that. But during that time, as they were approaching Christmas, Dad had talked with me kind of privately and talked with Randy kind of privately, interviewing us and asking us what we might want for Christmas. Now, you got to remember, this is back in the days when there was a Sears and Roebuck catalog, and there was a J.C. Penney catalog, and even a Montgomery Ward catalog. Yeah, that's telling my age right there. And you could open up catalogs and look at the toy section and pick all this really cool stuff that you wanted. Now, raise your hand if you don't know what a catalog is. You need to Google it and you'll figure that out. In this day and age, we get online and do all this, I guess. But anyway, I digress. Well, Dad had asked us what we wanted, and he'd made a list of things that Randy wanted. He'd made a list of things I wanted. And he left a note for my mom that said, hey, here are some things that the kids want. Pick some of these things, and order them, and so we have them for Christmas. Well, Dad's intent was that Mom pick some of those things. Mom's interpretation of what Dad had communicated was get all of these things. So Randy and I pretty much got everything we asked for that particular Christmas. Man, it was amazing. And I don't know how long Mom and Dad spent paying for that Christmas, but we had just an amazing Christmas. It was very merry, particularly for kids, all right? Well, now fast forward to in and around the year 2014. We're at the same house, and we're adults now, of course. And in the year 2014, Dad had gotten sick. That same man who had interviewed us and made up our list and found out what we wanted and worked so diligently to see to it that we had just a great Christmas that year, his health was failing him. He had had some health issues for some time, and he actually had a mild stroke and even coded that year on Thanksgiving Day. And we thought that he was rallying and he was making progress and getting better. But from Thanksgiving to approaching Christmas Day, he just was not really showing any improvement. He was in the hospital that is quite honestly less than 25 feet from the house that we were raised in. He was in a room there, and his health was declining. And quite frankly, he had already made it known that he didn't want to be put on a respirator or anything like that. If there was no hope of him getting any better, he just wanted us to let him peacefully step into eternity. On December 24th of 2014, that's what happened. Perhaps one of the greatest men I ever knew did just that. He peacefully took his last breath on Christmas Eve of 2014. And let me try to explain to you that that was not a Merry Christmas. That was not a good time. Oh, don't misunderstand me. I was glad that my dad wasn't suffering anymore and that he wasn't hurting anymore. But I still didn't want to lose my dad. And that Christmas of 2014 was not merry at all. It was extremely difficult. That's what happens sometimes, even around the holidays. Unfortunately, death and grief do not know a holiday. There are times when we get into this time of the year when we're happy and we're joyful, and there are other times when our circumstances may be different, and we're just having a hard time feeling the joy of the season. I don't know exactly how you feel right now, but I am acquainted with having some really great Christmases and a couple at least that really were extremely difficult. So what I want to talk about briefly tonight is how do we enjoy and or endure this holiday. Let me suggest a few things, okay? One is this: if you are happy and you know it, own it, okay? If you are in a good place right now, if this holiday season finds you healthy and well and with so many other blessings in your life and you're just in a good place, I hope you enjoy this Christmas season to the best of your ability. Do you like Christmas decorations? Put them up. Got a friend in Louisiana that puts a tree up, I think, in every room of her house. She loves Christmas, and she started way before Thanksgiving. And I don't even want to get into that debate on how soon you can put up your Christmas decorations. That's completely up to you. I'm not going to judge you anyway. Hey, you do you. If you are in a good place, you ought to go and enjoy the parties. You ought to enjoy the special services that are going on. Just this past Sunday, we had a children's Christmas program here at Mahood Avenue. What a blessing that was, man. Enjoy those kind of things. If there are other special gatherings that are taking place this time of the year, I hope you can go and partake of those. Christmas Eve in 2023 falls on a Sunday. We're going to have a special worship service that morning where we're singing Christmas songs, and there's going to be a special message on that day. If you don't have anything else going on, I hope you will either be here for that or tune in for the live stream. There are all kinds of amazing things that go on this time of the year, and I hope you can enjoy those. I hope you give gifts to your family and friends. I hope you're finished with your Christmas shopping, and if not, hurry up. The time is ticking away, right? I got a few more things to get and a lot more baking to do, all right? So if you're not finished with your Christmas gift doing, I understand. I am in that process too. But hey, give gifts, receive gifts, enjoy your family and friends, and more than anything else, if you're in a good place right now for this holiday season, don't let anybody steal your joy or your time of being happy in this holiday season. Go out and just have a great time in God-honoring ways, okay? It really is the most wonderful time of the year. We're celebrating the birth of our Savior, Jesus Christ. There's nothing wrong with enjoying that. If you are happy and you know it, own it. But here's something else to consider. If you are really sad this time of the year and you know it, then own that. Just be honest with yourself. And if nobody else will do it for you, just let me do it for you. You have permission to be sad, even when everybody else may be very, very happy. I'm not saying that I want you to be sad. I don't think you want to be sad. You don't want to be struggling. I understand. But if that's where you are right now, even though it's Christmas, it's okay to just own your feelings. There is no shame in being sad. Sadness is one of those emotions that God's given us to help deal with difficult circumstances. And quite honestly, if you are like I was in 2014 and just lost somebody special to you, this is a sad time. This may be your first Christmas without someone that was very, very close to you. I don't know exactly how you feel, but I am acquainted with your loss. And what I know is this: you've got to grieve your loss, even if it's a holiday. It's okay if you're sad. Acknowledge that, accept that, and grieve your losses. It's okay. Psychologists tell us that there are 5 stages of grief. They're listed as shock or denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Now, what they don't tell us about these 5 stages necessarily is when we're talking about them, we kind of describe them as being linear, like you have shock and denial, then anger, then bargaining, then depression, and then acceptance. The reality of it is they're not necessarily linear. It would be nice if these things all happen when we're grieving, kind of like eating a meal in a school cafeteria. You remember when you were in elementary or middle school or maybe even high school and you went to the cafeteria and you took that tray up and they had all these different compartments, and maybe let's say they were having an exceptionally good meal that day and they gave you some roast beef in one and some potatoes in another and some carrots in another and some peas in another and then maybe a piece of bread over here in another one. Well, there are some people when they eat a meal like that, everything is in its compartment and they eat one thing at a time. They never mix together. They eat all the roast beef, then they eat all the potatoes, then they eat all the corn, then all the carrots. If that's you, I'm not going to judge you. But I just want to tell you, if those are the components of grief, that's not really how grief works. Grief is more like a beef stew, okay? A beef stew would take some roast beef and put it in a pot, and some potatoes and put it in a pot, and some carrots and corn and peas, and just put it all in one big pot. And when you start eating that, you might get a little more roast beef at one time, and then all of a sudden you notice there's a little bit of carrot in there, maybe some peas, and maybe next time it's all vegetables and no meat, or maybe just one vegetable and nothing else. And then sometimes you dip in there and you take a bite of that beef stew and you got a little bit of corn, a little bit of peas, a little bit of carrots, potatoes, and all 5 of them at one time. My friends, grief is really more like that. At least that's what I found it to be. And when we're grieving, according to the scripture, the best thing we can really do is just genuinely grieve our losses. Matthew 5:4, Jesus himself said this, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." Oh, my friend, I don't want you to be struggling through the holiday season, but if you are, it's okay to grieve. It's okay to cry. It's okay to laugh when you remember funny memories maybe of that loved one that you're grieving. It's okay to express anger in healthy ways. It's okay to just get it out in healthy ways. And let me encourage you, reach out to someone, a friend, maybe even a counselor. And above all, pray to God and pour your heart out to Him. A lot of times when we think of praying, we think all we can tell God is when we're happy and when we're praising Him and when there are things that we really, really need or want, Well, those are good things to pray about, but I found this out. If I'm hurting and I'm angry, I can tell God about that. And I know I'm in good company in saying this because I've read through the Psalms. David had a lot of times when he recorded his Psalms where he was praying to God and he was honoring God in great ways, but there were other times when he was really, really hurting or really, really angry, and he poured his heart out to God, and God just helped him in those times. Oh, listen to me. God's big enough to hear what's really on your heart. And by the way, He knows already anyhow. No need trying to hide it from Him. If you are hurting, grieve your losses. Get your pain out in God-honoring ways. Wherever you find yourself this holiday season, please be mindful of those who aren't where you are. Romans 12:15 says this, we're to rejoice with those who rejoice, and we're to weep with those who weep. Well, how does that apply to the holiday season? Let me suggest a few things. If you are in a good place this holiday season, please be mindful of those who may be struggling. Maybe you've got good resources financially this year, and there's some others who are struggling that you know about. Maybe you want to purchase an extra gift or two and offer it to a family in need. That might be a good thing to do. Now, you don't need to feel guilty for buying great gifts for your kids or for your spouse or for whoever. No, that's not what I'm saying. And you don't need to not buy gifts for the people that you love and give it all to the poor. I'm not suggesting that either. But share a little bit of your overflow maybe this year and be a blessing to others. Maybe during this holiday season you're in a good place, but you know somebody who's struggling, and you could offer to go buy them a cup of coffee and sit and visit with them for a while and just see if maybe they want to talk about things that are going on in their lives. They may or may not want to talk about their loved one who's gone on or whatever else they're struggling with, but they'll appreciate the gift of your time and the cup of coffee, I'm sure. You may want to consider including some other people in your holiday celebration. I know that can be a risky thing maybe, or a big thing, but if you just look around sometime during the holidays, you might see some people who don't have a lot of people around them. And maybe you know somebody you're close to that you can include in with your family celebration. I remember several years ago, there was a good friend of mine. He was someone I also happened to pastor. The holidays were coming up. It was almost Christmas, and I just asked him, I said, hey, what are you doing Christmas Day? And he just kind of perked up. He said, well, honestly, I don't have any plans. And I just said, hey, why don't you come over 10 o'clock Christmas Day? We want you to come eat with us. And he took us up on that offer. And Christmas Day came, and we got up with our kids, and we had our time of opening gifts and just being our family time. And about 10:30 that morning, gift giving and unwrapping had already been done. We'd had a little bit of breakfast. We were planning a Christmas dinner. And some of the gifts that we had given the kids that year were some movies on DVD. And that was back when DVDs were big, and they're not quite the big thing now. I understand that. Well, this family friend came over. He visited with us. We had a great dinner. And then we sat down together and just watched a movie and relaxed. We didn't have to do anything fancy. We didn't do anything really out of the ordinary. We just sat another place at the table. Well, 2, 3 o'clock that day, after visiting, watching a movie, eating, he thanked us for the invitation and for the time, and he went home. And we were glad to have spent that time with him. Well, I didn't think a whole lot about that event that day, other than it was a good time for all of us. Some weeks later, this guy came up to me and said, you know what, you're never going to know exactly how much that meant to me. Your invitation to come over that day came at just a very good time. Quite frankly, I was going to take my own life. This guy disclosed to me that he'd been so depressed over the loss of his wife a few years earlier, and things weren't going well with his daughter, and he just had some very real struggles that I was unaware of. And this guy was a good friend of mine. And all I did was invite him over. Not knowing any of this other stuff was really that he was struggling this much with those things. And I certainly didn't know until he told me that he had an active plan to take his own life. And what turned him over the other way and helped him see that there was something worth not taking his life over, there was something worth living for, was a simple invitation to come and to eat a meal. Now, I'm not saying that there's somebody out there you need to invite for Christmas dinner because they might be about to take their own lives. That's not what I'm trying to suggest. What I'm simply saying is we don't know what a difference we might make by simply including someone else who might not have any place else to go or have any other plans. And you don't know until you ask. Consider including others in your holiday celebrations. If you're in a good place, just be mindful of those who might not be. You don't have to forsake all your Christmas plans and go suddenly be discouraged or feel guilty for feeling good. Okay, that's not what it's about. Just be mindful of others who might not be in as good a situation as you are. But what about if you're struggling, if you're the one who's hurting through this Christmas season? Let me ask you to do this, please. Would you take a moment to rejoice with those who are rejoicing? Even if you can only do it for a moment, just let me tell you, it is helpful for you if you'll do this. I can remember the Christmas of 2011 was the first Christmas that my kids and I had without their mom. She had passed away earlier that year. And while I don't know exactly how you feel, I do understand those first big holidays, the first year after someone passes away. They're really, really hard. Now, we were together with family, and I'd gotten up early that morning and just went for a walk. And I got to tell you, I was crying, I was struggling, and I was extremely well supported. Don't misunderstand me. I had people all over the place praying for me, aware that this was our first Christmas without a dear loved one. But even in that, I knew I was sad, and I knew I had to get those feelings out. So I just went for a walk by myself. I cried, I prayed, I was struggling. But then I got a text from one particular friend, and I read it. And it was just something as simple as, hey, I love you, I'm praying for you. And I appreciated that. But this particular friend, as I read that text, something dawned on me. God just kind of reminded me of something. This particular family was experiencing their first Christmas with their newborn child, just a few months old. It was their second child, or her second child, and they were having their first Christmas with a brand new baby. And I thought for about 60 seconds, man, this is really, really cool for them. I am so glad they're getting their first Christmas with this little boy. And I was happy for them for about 60 seconds. And then I was dealing with my grief again. But I can tell you beyond the shadow of any doubt, that momentary happiness lightened my grief some. It didn't make it all go away, but it helped me deal with my grief and my loss. Now, why is that important? When you're grieving, you just need to be aware that you feel those feelings, you grieve your losses, but as you're coming out of that fog, so to speak, it's helpful to remember that there are others who are having some good time, and you don't begrudge them that. You do what Paul told the Romans, we're to not only weep with those who are weeping, but rejoice with those who are rejoicing. There were plenty of people who were rejoicing that year who took time to weep with me because I was weeping. Well, I needed to be one of those who could, at least for a moment, rejoice with those who were rejoicing. My friends, I can tell you my experience with that was helpful. I hope you'll give it a try, and I hope you find it helpful too. Well, whether you are happy or hurting this holiday, please put your focus on Jesus. I know the decorations are important. I know that the gatherings are important. I know the gifts have great value, not only monetarily, but emotionally and in so many other ways. But I also know beyond the shadow of any doubt, the most important reason for this season is Jesus Christ. And here's what I know as well. He's the reason for this celebration. He's also the healer of this season and your heartache, if that's where you're at. Whatever wherever you find yourself through this time, and any other time to be honest, but particularly through this most wonderful time of the year that might be the most difficult time for you, understand Jesus is the one who helps us through. He's worthy of our adoration and celebration, and He's the healer of our heartache. Wherever you are in this Christmas season, I hope you'll look to Him, cry out to Him, give honor to Him. He will see you through and He will help you. I pray that this is a great holiday season for you. And if it isn't, I pray for you that God will see you through. I can testify He's seen me through the good times, and He's seen me through the difficult times. I appreciate your time this evening. God bless you, and Merry Christmas.